Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sportswatch. I'm Lachlan Sheriff. Joining me as always is the wonderful Tin Ewing. Tin, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. Look, it's been a massive week of sport, so I say we jumped right in as we head over to South Melbourne. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough 8 weeks, in fact. And now it's finally over. Esteban Quintas has been sacked.
If I had to pick a winner right now, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to predict South Melbourne. I think that's the safest bet for everyone. I will say South Melbourne win it all.
South Melbourne are just an incredible club, and I feel like it's going to be really tough to get past them this year.
And these teams could not be decided. It will end in a draw of 3 goals apiece.
And South Melbourne lose their first game of the 2024-2025 NPL Victoria season. All eyes on Preston Lions this Friday night. It's going to be a cracker. Can South Melbourne recover?
Albano to give Preston the lead. Oh, how about that? Preston Lions defeat South Melbourne.
South Melbourne's month of March sadness continues. 3 consecutive losses now.
A draw that might not do either side any favours.
As the full-time whistle sounds at Lakeside, you can hear the reception.
At the end, it was almost a bit too easy.
And in the end, a lackluster affair.
And that's all the time that we have at Lakeside. It's Heidelberg United with a rampant second half performance at the expense of South Melbourne. South Melbourne, who now make it 8 games without a win, 5 of those defeats. And for Esteban Quintas and his team, it's a glum situation.
As we've seen there, terrible results all around the board. You know, they've had a rough season for sure. They've also lost their striker, Gustav Moller. He's out the door. But Tin, I'm just wondering, what have you made of this? It's just been a rough start for South Melbourne, and their manager, who almost seemed invincible just 12 months ago, is now gone. So where does South Melbourne even go from here?
I mean, yeah, it's a difficult position for them to be in. It's one that's been widely covered, not just by us, but by the wider Victorian football and the wider Australian football community as well. It's not a position you want to be in, especially as an inaugural championship team, as one of, but not just that, as one of Victoria's perennial football clubs. I mean, it's something that's said every week. It's said every time South Melbourne play. This is South Melbourne. This is the Oceanian football club of the century. This is one of the biggest football clubs in Australia, etc., etc. There's a whole lot of superlatives that can be put into it. Ultimately, this stretch is not what they want. It's not ideal for them at all. It's not ideal for any of their supporters, fans. It's difficult to watch from the outside, even as a supporter of another club, of other clubs. We need our South Melbournes to be successful, especially if we want our championship to be successful, and if we want to open the door to promotion and relegation. Because ultimately, this is a team that's been one of the largest advocates of promotion and relegation, and if they want to be such loud advocates for the future of this game, in a way they have to back it up, and they definitely struggled to do that in recent times.
Absolutely. You look at the results here. A 3-3 draw to Melbourne Victory Reserves to start this run. They then lose 3 in a row to St Albans, Preston and Dandenong Thunder. A 1-1 draw to Hume City. A loss to Dandenong City at home. They had a 0-0 draw against Altona last week, and then the final nail in the coffin was that 3-0 loss to Heidelberg on Sunday. Now, look, I unfortunately couldn't get out. I was planning on getting out, and I couldn't in the end, but I did see the game on the stream, and look, I would never accuse the South Melbourne players of not caring, because, at the end of the day, athletes care more than we could ever understand. But if you just look at it, it almost seemed like Heidelberg wanted it more. In fact, I think they did. I don't think that's a ridiculous thing to say. So I was not sure if there was a culture issue in South Melbourne, which seems incredible to say, because this is such a rich club with such an incredible culture. But was it a culture issue? Did, Esteban Quintas just finally lose the dressing room? Because what I saw on Sunday was just not up to the standards that they expect, especially against a team like Heidelberg, a big Greek rivalry. So I'm not sure if you managed to catch that Heidelberg game, but if you did, do you agree with me? What did you make of that?
I mean, of course, the scoreline says it all. Heidelberg were incredible on the night. I mean, obviously, we know they're a great team. We know they've got potential. That we know they'll be in finals again. They'll likely be pushing for that championship spot. That's the usual. But ultimately, yeah, South Melbourne, like you said, it looks like there was just a lack of something in the end from their side. I mean, whether it's a culture thing or something like that, we're not sure. sometimes things happen in the dressing room behind the scenes that ultimately some of us will never know about. Something like players, media. So there's just things that just some people never find out. But ultimately, I mean, I think it speaks big volumes that Esteban Quintas is now gone. I mean, obviously it's eight. I mean, obviously an 8 week stretch. It's very unlikely for any manager in any sport to go 8 games in a row, but without a win and just keep their job. But ultimately, it's shown that the South Melbourne board has found something that's needed to change, and they've decided to start from the top ultimately. And pretty much, I think they found where they want to start from here, and I think they've found that they're gonna have to start again. It's not start fresh for the rest of the season, pretty much, and hopefully they'll try not to. They'll try and salvage something out of this year, especially with that big championship campaign looming at the end of the season.
Yeah, look, it does put them in an awkward position, doesn't it? Because they've almost got to rebuild halfway through a season now. We're obviously seeing teams, have to start again fresh in the off-season, like over Christmas. That's fine. We saw some clubs do that. I think we saw Preston do that, for example, with all their signings. And that's fine. That's something that happens in football. But for a club to have to rebuild halfway through the season, they've lost their manager, who, again, seemed like such a quintessential piece to that team. He's now gone. He's out the window. Even if you look at the players, Gustav Moller, who they had to take a punt on to replace Sawyer, he's gone. Now, I didn't hate the idea take a punt on him because obviously he's tall, he fits their set piece style to play well. But Gustav Moller, let's just call it what it was. He wasn't up to the standard they needed, so he's gone. So now they're pretty much without a striker. They're without a manager. Where does this? What happens from here? Because I just look at this and I think it's just such a terrible project that I probably wouldn't touch the 10-foot pole. I'll be honest, because sure they've got the championship, but they're not going to win the league. You have to rule that out now. They're probably not going to. Look, they still could make finals, but it's not looking great. So this is such a weird project now, and I'm just wondering, what do they even do from here?
I mean, yeah, it's a difficult spot to be in. I'm sure whoever takes the seat, whoever takes the helm at South Melbourne they'll understand there's a big uphill task for them. I mean, we've seen teams come back from bigger ditches before. I mean, this is NPL Victoria. Really, anything can happen. But yeah, whoever takes the helm has got a big uphill battle for them. I think in the end, it's just going to be about winning back respect. Because obviously the championship is coming up, and like I said before, they've probably been the biggest proponents for a competition like this since forever. Pretty much, they've basically always been the ones at the forefront, leading the charge for things like second division and promotion and relegation. Ultimately, they just have to win back some respect amongst the entire Australian football community. I think in the end, whether that's salvaging something out of their Victorian season, we'll find out, or whether that's making a great run in the championship itself. In the end, it's just going to have to be something that they have to find out, and they'll have to really just get something out of this season, whether it's to make NPL finals, to survive relegation, or to make a good impression in the championship. Because ultimately, it's a club with high standards. It's a club with, it's higher standards than anyone could possibly imagine, and this is not their standard at all.
Absolutely. Look, it's been rough for South Melbourne. They're currently sitting 11th. It's with 9 points, which just seems unfathomable. I'm sure people had them winning it all. I think we had them winning it all at the start of the season, and now they're just in a rough spot. But if you look elsewhere down the table, Avondale's still on top, of course. They beat Altona 4-0 on the weekend. I was lucky enough to get out to that one. They've had a near-perfect season aside from that one loss to Thunder. They're looking great. But then again, we'll put it up now. If you look around at the other leagues, there's obviously a lot of leagues going on. We've got all 8 leagues playing right now. It's great to see. I'm just wondering, outside of NPL Victoria, has there been anything that's caught your eye recently?
I mean, I think the big one for me was so I was in Sydney this weekend, of course. I think the one that caught my eye was the derby, I guess you can call it. It was a rivalry game, at least. The Sydney United versus Rockdale and Ellendon on Sunday, which was, Rockdale ended up winning 3-1 away from home. Obviously, Sydney United championship team, they're having a pretty solid season in New South Wales, but Rockdale have made a great run in recent years. Obviously, Rockdale being one of the growing teams in New South Wales. We saw them in the Australia Cup last year. We saw their incredible fan base, and we saw them go up against the Newcastle Jets. We saw them take Newcastle Jets almost the entire way last year. But yeah, in the end, there's been some good watching around all of the states, but I think New South Wales particularly has a pretty interesting setup right now. Obviously, they've also got some inaugural championship teams, which means either way, they're contributing a lot to this league. And I think, yeah, There's some good football around. There's some definitely some good results around the rest of the states. And coming into the Cup weekend, I think every league is starting to take shape, and we're starting to get a better idea of everyone. Sure.
Well said. Cup weekend is coming up, of course. There's some big games all around the state. Everyone loves the magic of the Cup. You hear about it all the time. I would suggest going and experiencing that for yourself. Whether it's, a big underdog matchup, such as Ringwood City versus Oakley Cannons, I believe that's the big one in Victoria, or whether it's just two teams who play each other in the league, it still could be a great match. It still could be an incredible ending, because at the end of the day, you never know what's going to happen in the Cup. So I would say right now to everyone, go out, get to a Cup game or two and enjoy it, because it's going to be class. We'll cover it next week, of course, but we will move on now to our next topic, and that is the A-League Women's. Now, we've talked about A-League Women before. We are going to cover the A-League Women this week, considering what is happening with that. Look, it's been a pretty good title race all season between the two Melbourne clubs, Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory. On the weekend, Melbourne City could have won it all if they won, which they did, but then there was a Victory to lose. That did not happen. So you've got a final week coming up now. Melbourne City on 52 points. You've got Melbourne Victory on 50, just behind them. We'll look at the whole table now, of course, but if you focus on that title race, you can see that City, if they can get it done this week against Perth away, they will be champions. So I'm not sure if you've kept an eye on this. I just want to know what you make of this incredible title race we've got coming up.
I mean, yeah, it's great. It's great to follow, isn't it? Like you've mentioned, it's been great between those two Melbourne clubs all year. They've been easily the best two teams all year. I mean, I've been following Western United around in the A-League Women's, but I've kept my eye on the other teams. I mean, City are just incredible. Like, I'll just tell the truth. You watch them play, the way they move the ball, it's a complete other class to some other teams. The way they play is just absolutely incredible. Of course, they're in Asia as well, so they've got potential to, just be absolutely one of the biggest, most dominant powerhouse teams right now in Australia at the moment. Look, against Perth, you'd rate their chances. Obviously, Melbourne play Brisbane as well, so that's probably more difficult. Or Victory play Brisbane. Sorry, Victory will probably have a bit of a tougher matchup to give it a chance. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, City play on the Friday night away in Perth. Obviously, you still got the trip to Perth. You don't rule them out on anything. But Friday night could be big. We could see them clinch the championship title there and then, I reckon.
Absolutely. Look, Melbourne City were class. I was lucky enough to get out to that one on the Friday night. They got the job done. Newcastle obviously went down to 9 women in the end. So, you'd expect them to win from there, Melbourne City, and they did 4-1. It was a class game, but Victory did what they had to do. They got it done as well. So that's just like a final weekend. And I do just want to shine some light on this. I actually can't take credit for this. This was suggested to me by the wonderful Joey Lynch. So I'll give him a shout out for this one. But I do just want to point out the fact that in so many leagues around the world, whether it be the English Premier League, whether it be just even NPL leagues, so they do this. On the final weekend, everyone plays against each other at the same time. It gives you that element of excitement. It gives you, we've all seen it. People are following along on their phones, the other games, whether it's, a relegation fight in another league or whether it's a title fight like we've got here. It is great. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in our A-League, in both men and women's. So we've got an interesting situation here where Melbourne Victory could go into their final game with the league already done. So I just want to know, what do you make of this almost weird fixturing? Like, at the very least, would you not want the two title teams playing against each other at the same time so we could have more excitement and also so there wouldn't be... I'd say there's an advantage for Melbourne City now, knowing they don't have to worry about Victory. They can just get it done themselves. And it almost seems unfair to Victory. So I do want to know what you make of that.
I mean, yeah, we'll give thanks to Joey for that. I mean, he's a friend of the show. He's been a friend of yours for a long time. We're grateful for his contribution. But I think you mentioned it. I think you're right. It's an interesting case to make, especially with the A-League women's. I mean, yeah, you talk about the cinema. I mean, everyone goes back to all the close title fights we've had in the Premier League the last couple of years. You think back to all these great moments in all these different leagues. You think back to even NPL Victoria just a couple of years back where the relegation battle came down to the last weekend. I mean, it's great when you have moments like that where it's all sort of just up in the air, and I think that's the excitement of the final weekend and even the final couple of weekends in the A-League in football. And it's interesting that the A-League women doesn't have it, because I do know A-League women's as of now doesn't really have a current on TV broadcasting schedule. All of their games are indeed online, which begs the question. I mean, ultimately, if every game is stream, why can't you just put them at the same time? I mean, ultimately, look, the A-League couldn't have had the foresight to put both Melbourne teams at the same time. Obviously, they could have never predicted that. at the same time, it'd be even harder to put a game in Perth and a game in Melbourne at the same time with the time zones. I mean, I'd imagine people in Perth don't want to go to an 11 a.m. game, and people in Melbourne don't want to go to a 6 p.m. game, something like that. It's difficult work. It's something like that. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, if you look across the rest of the table, you mentioned you look at fourth to sixth, Western United 32, Central Coast Mariners 31, and Canberra 30. Everywhere you look throughout this table, there's all these different permutations that can be moving and shifting around. And I mean, it adds so much to the drama, especially in the A-League Women's, where you could argue this is more feasible. So, and look, the case definitely can be made for the A-League men as well. Obviously, it's a lot harder because they have an actual on TV broadcast. It's a lot harder for them to sort that stuff out. But at the same time, even as much of a problem and controversial talking point as it is in Europe, like games get moved around all the time for TV. And while it wouldn't be ideal, especially for, fans in Australia who, typically most of us like to plan ahead, that sort of thing, and it definitely hurt things like traveling fans as well. It's something I think the A-League should consider if they can get that sorted, especially if they can consider it a couple of weeks in advance, because, I mean, ultimately, as an experience, it just enhances so much, and it's something that can't really be matched by the other sports that football tries to compete with.
For sure. And look, I do hear your point with the time, and obviously that's a great point. We're not in a country that has favourable time zones for everyone, unfortunately, but I still think it's possible you play a game in Victoria at 6 o'clock, you play a game in West Australia at 3 o'clock, they're still simultaneous. I think it works, but it's a good point. Like you said, the A-League can't see what's going to happen at the end of the season, but again, our games get moved for TV all the time. We all know this. You might not like it, but it's just how it is. So, look, is it the end of the world? No. We're still going to have a good ending to the season. We're still going to have a good title fight, but like you said, it could definitely be moved around, but it is what it is, I suppose. There's bigger things to worry about. You'll still tune into Melbourne City on Friday night, see if they can get it done, and then if not, that victory game against Brisbane suddenly becomes very huge. So definitely keep an eye on the A-League Women's. Thank you, Joey, for that idea, for bringing this up on the show. And just finally, before we move on to our next segment, I want to know, do you think Melbourne City can get it done, or will they have a bit of a stumble and let victory steal the title?
I mean, I said it before, City are an incredible team at the moment in the A-League Women's. It's like they can't really be stopped by anyone, to be honest. I mean, I've been fortunate to see them a couple of times live now. I made the long trip to Casey Fields as a traveling Western United fan, and on that day, where they beat Western 5-1, all I could think was, I mean, geez, the way they play, like it's almost like everything falls their way in a way. And the way they play is they're just in such control of the game, and ultimately, if there's anyone who deserves to do it, it'd be Melbourne City. I think they do get it done on Friday. They're just that sort of team. They're an incredible team. They do it under pressure. And look, fair credit to Victory. I mean, Victory are an incredible team too. They've been an incredible team in the women's for many years now, obviously. Yeah, I mean, either way, whoever wins will definitely be well deserving of the title at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great title fight. I'd recommend tuning in to both games. We're going to have an incredible end to the season. And then we've got finals as well, so it's not just done there. But nonetheless, a lot to look forward to in the A-League Women's. We will move on now, though, to a huge friend of the show, the AIHL. Obviously, we've got the media partnership with them. We're stoked to have that. And I'm actually out to my first AIHL game on Sunday between Melbourne Mustangs and the Brisbane Lightning. It was a great game. The Mustangs took it in overtime. It was an incredible game, and look, I'm just so happy that I've managed to find this league, that I've managed to go out and report it. So huge thanks to the AHL for having me, and a huge thanks for Stephen White for helping me get in as well, because there was a few issues there. But nonetheless, there was good games all around. You had the Brisbane Lightning and Melbourne Ice game the day before, a rematch of the preliminary final. You had, obviously, like I said, the Mustangs game. Perth played Canberra, and they took both those games. That was a pretty good matchup. And then also Newcastle Central Coast. The Newcastle North Stars took both of those games. So, look, some good games all around the country, good games all around the league. It was a pretty good week on the ice, I'd say. I'm not sure how much of it you caught. I know you were covering the A-League in Sydney, but what did you see and what did you make of it so far now that we're 2 weeks down?
I mean, yeah, it was a great following. Obviously, what I probably kept my eye most on was I kept my eye on the M1 derby, which is Newcastle and Central Coast. I mean, it's a great rivalry down there. It's one that's got a bit of history. It's been in the league for a couple of years. There was a bit of a hiatus, but we got there back in the end. And yeah, I mean, Newcastle have been one of the better teams all year. They've been a team that's always been on the cusp of the Goodall Cup, but never quite there. Obviously, I mean, yeah, they ended up taking both games against the Rhinos. The Rhinos have become, we've discovered now, the Rhinos are a great team this year. They're a great team. But Newcastle have become starting to really find a different gear. Obviously, like I've mentioned, they've been great in recent years, but this Newcastle team genuinely is very exciting to play to watch again. I mean, yeah, talking on those games, obviously in the preseason they met each other. They with one game won apiece by both teams, but obviously Newcastle won both of these. Obviously, Francis Droulet came back to play, played his 100th AIHL game. Mackenzie Bolger scored a hat trick in his first game back from a bit of a journey overseas, and Bo Taylor in the end winning for Newcastle in overtime on Saturday night. And I mean, anyway, I mean, yeah, overall it was a great series for them. Obviously, one of the great rivalries in the AIHL. There's plenty of them, plenty of great games, and yeah, ultimately, yeah, it was a great watch it was a great watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed following along with it.
Absolutely. If I pick some games I kept my eye on, I'll be honest, I was a bit biased. I was focusing on the Melbourne games. Like I said, you had the preliminary final matchup between the Ice and Brisbane. Unfortunately, quickly after that one, we did keep my eye on it. Brisbane got it done. It was a pretty good win for them, I thought. I was very impressed by Jake Dornbos. I thought he was great. He kept, I believe, 58 out of 59 shots, which is just incredible. He's on one from Sydney, obviously. He's had an incredible start of the season. I'll be interested to see what he can do now. Like I said, the Lightning then went back the next day. They played the Mustangs, and the Mustangs got done. It was very tight. It was very nerve-wracking, but in the end, they did prevail. Look, Brisbane have started the season okay. I believe 3 out of 4 of their games have gone to overtime, so they're definitely right there. They just sometimes can't get it done at the end, like we saw on Sunday. But one on to the Lightning, that's it. One on to the Mustangs, that's a very good win. As for the Ice, if you go back, they're winless now. So, look, the Ice were very, very good now, consistently for a few years. So, this has been an interesting start. I'm not sure what you make. I know you're a nice fan. Are you a bit worried about how they've started the season?
I mean, it's not the position we want to be in. Obviously, finalists last year in the Goodall Cup finals. It's to go to from that to 0-2 is not ideal. I mean, I think the positive I've taken out of both games is both losses have come in overtime. There's something there. There's something there in it. And I think back to the Rhinos game. Obviously, we were down 3-4 goals at the end of the second, and we came back. And I mean, ultimately, in the end, I think there's something. It's not completely over for us. We've still got points on the board. As was widely mentioned, obviously Tatsuishita came back, played his first game back for the Ice this week. I mean, last year he was extremely instrumental in the finals run for the Ice. But I mean, yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult start, but ultimately, this Ice team is a good one. They're one that's well experienced. It's one that's been extremely successful in the past in the AIHL. Ultimately, they know that there's a higher standard for them. They know that there's a higher standard for them. I mean, 2 overtime losses, they know that they can definitely be better. But yeah, no, it's interesting to follow along. It's definitely an interesting position to be in to start the season, and yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's been a lot of overtimes to start this season. Let's call it that. Obviously, like you said, the Ice have had 2 overtimes. Brisbane have gone overtime 3 out of 4 times. So, firstly, that just shows what an incredible competitive league this is. You're going to see a lot of good games on the Ice, so definitely tune in. But secondly, look, overtime losses are hard to take. Obviously, I know the Ice can relate to that right now, but like you said, it definitely shows there's something there. It definitely shows they're close. Sometimes it's just one little thing that if it changes, they don't even go to overtime. They win the game in regulation time, or they take the overtime win. So look, not the start they want, obviously, but there's still a lot of games to go, and I'm sure they will bounce back because, like we said, they've been a great team consistently now for a few years, and they made the final last year. So I definitely think there's still something there. I'm sure they will bounce back. But we'll have a quick look at the ladder now. Thunder on top, they're 4 for 4. They can't complain with that. You've then got the Lightning, the Mustangs, and Northside around the top 4. The Adrenals still haven't played yet, unfortunately. And then you look down, the Brave and the Ice and the Rhinos as well, all without a win so far to start the season. So it's very interesting times right now. I'm not sure. It's probably still too early to pick a favourite, but if you were to look at it, who would you say you've got winning so far? Because it's an interesting season, like I said, a lot of overtimes, a lot of close games, a lot of teams who probably feel they could be doing a little better than what they've shown in the first few weeks. So if you had to pick a favourite now to win it all at the end of the season, who have you got?
I mean, it's a tough call to make this early this season. We know ice hockey is one of those unpredictable sports. It's a sport where the underdog always has a chance in ice hockey. Ice hockey is a sport where the underdog always has a chance, is what I meant to say. I mean, right now, obviously, you mentioned the Perth Thunder. They've managed to do it in regulation all 4 times. But in particular, right now, I'm looking at this Mustangs team and I'm just thinking there's something different about them. They've got an excellent edge about them. Obviously, the one win and the one overtime win, they're looking incredible at the moment. And look, I think if I had to pick a team, I think that Mustangs team has what it takes ultimately to go all the way. It's a tight race. It's obviously early in the season. We could see teams push back. We could see teams drop. But right now, I mean, I've been thoroughly impressed by what I've seen from the Melbourne Mustangs. So I'd have to go for them at this point in time.
Yeah, look, I've been impressed by the Mustangs as well. I was at the game on Sunday, like I said, and I think I gave them a lot of credit for being able to fight back because they were up 2-1. You go down 3-2, and at that point, it's easy to drop your head, think this isn't our day. We'll have to just go to next week. But credit to them, they got that third goal, they brought it back to 3-3, and then got the overtime win. So well done to the Mustangs. They're definitely looking good. Like you said, they're definitely a chance for it all. Still too early to predict an official winner, but they're definitely looking good. If I pick one, I mean, you can't look past the Perth Thunder, can you? 4 wins, 4 games, 4 wins, all in regulation. I mean, that's just an incredible achievement. I've been able to get out to one of their games out. Hopefully, we'll be able to watch some of that soon. But nonetheless, I am definitely impressed with what I've seen so far, and one of them being an incredible start to the season. But I believe that will just about do it for our AIHL coverage. Again, a special thanks to Stephen White and the team of the AIHL for the partnership with Shock Up and giving us the media accreditations that we've earned. It's definitely a lot of help, and we appreciate it. We look forward to getting out to more games when they come back to Melbourne. But we'll move on now to our next segment, which is the WNBA draft. As always, it was a very stacked draft. Paige Becker's going number 1 to the Dallas Wings, no surprise there. From there on, was then round out some pretty good talent in its own right. But I want to talk about the woman who was drafted, Big Six, Georgia Amoore. Now, the reason we want to focus on her, obviously, is because she was born in Ballarat. She's an Australian, and look, looks like she's going to have an incredible career. We saw it all throughout her college career. We gave her a little shout out last week when we talked about Australian club sport. But this week, we'll focus on her more because she has been drafted Big Six to the WNBA. It's a huge achievement, obviously. She had such an incredible college career, and I'm just excited to see what she can do in the WNBA, not only for the Washington Mystics with selected her, but also for the Opals when she starts playing in some of those Olympic games. We've also got the 2028 Olympics coming up, where I think we could definitely improve on that bronze medal finish from 2024, especially with her on the team. So if you look at the WNBA right now, and you look at Georgia Amoore in that mixed 6 team, it's a young team, I was wondering, what do you make of this? And also, what does it mean for Australians to maybe have such, she could become an all-star talent. So you look at that, what do you make of that?
I mean, yeah, I think it's great. It's great for Australia. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times in past weeks now when we talked about like Australian athletes. We talked about it with Condon last week in March Madness. I mean, we love seeing Australians go far in big places, especially and obviously WNBA, the highest standard of women's basketball in the world. It's a great place for her to be in. So I mean, we send our full congratulations, and look for I'll definitely be keeping my eye out on Mystics games in the future. But yeah, I mean, it's good for them. It's gonna be a good pickup for them in the end. Help shape out their team, like you mentioned. Obviously, it's a young team that's started to develop, and ultimately, I think she'll provide an interesting piece for them. And I think, all of us will be looking forward to seeing how her career plays out for sure.
Absolutely. We've seen her have an incredible college career. She had 4 years at Virginia Tech where she improved every season. She went to Kentucky for this final year of eligibility and she did well there as well. So it was no surprise that she was going to be a very high pick. I wasn't sure exactly where she would go watching yesterday. I thought maybe somewhere in the top 10. I was thinking, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. In the end, she fell 6th. She went to Washington. I think that's a great fit for her. You look at the Mystics, they had a pretty big day yesterday. Georgia Amoore, despite being the 6th pick overall, was actually their 3rd pick in the draft. They took Sonia Citron at 3rd, and they took Kiki Arafin at 4th from USC. So, look, that's a very young team. You have 30 top 6 picks. You've just got a very young team. You've got a team there with a lot of potential to grow and build an incredible team in the future. So, like I said, they've got an incredible young team. They've also got Jade Melbourne, another Aussie. So, I'm sure Georgia Amoore and her will have a pretty good partnership together. It'll be great to see 2 Aussies on the same team, obviously. But, the Mystics are going to definitely try and bounce back. They had a rough year this year, but I'm sure they are starting to pick up some pieces and build a good team because I definitely saw some potential at the end of last season. I'm not sure how much of it you saw, but like I said, they're a young team. They're looking to grow. They've got Georgia Amoore now who, look, sure, there's some questions about her. She's not the tallest, but she definitely knows where the basket is, and that's one of the best traits to have. So, like you said, there'll definitely be a lot of Mystics games to watch. Hopefully we get a few on KO in Australia, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does because she's an incredible talent and we're also proud of her.
I mean, yeah, 100%. Like you mentioned, I mean, like we've been saying, it's incredible to have Australians go big places. But And Georgia Amoore is going to join a long list of great Australian athletes who have gone overseas and hopefully to have succeeded overseas as well. Australia has been a pretty good nation in terms of basketball legacy. You mentioned players like, we've had legends in obviously the men's NBA, but obviously women's basketball is a sport that's starting to pick up a lot of popularity, and hopefully, Georgia Amoore is going to help lead the charge in not just the popularity of women's basketball, but also with helping the charge for Australian athletes to have pathways, and for Australian girls in particular have pathways in basketball, which is it's always been sort of a boys dominated sport. So hopefully she can help promote that, and hopefully it'll help the game grow 100%.
For sure. Women's basketball is on the rise here. We had Lauren Jackson 25 years ago. She was incredible. We've now got this new youth of talent. You look at Ezzy Magbagor. Like you said, you look at Amoore, you look at Jade Melbourne. There's a lot of young talent we've got coming through. There's a lot of girls I know who are interested in women's basketball now, and it's great to see because, like you said, we've had incredible rise. Like I mentioned, we came third in the Paris Olympics. So it's huge now to think that we might even be better going to 2028 in LA. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Amoore does in the WNBA. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how it pans out for her, and hopefully it ends up working out for us Aussies because we could definitely use another big star in the American leagues. But I'll just have a look at their fixture now. They will have a preseason game on the Sunday, May 4th. It's against Indiana Fever, so not the easiest of the games. I've got the one and only Caitlin Clark, so good luck with that. But you then look down. Their first official game is against Atlanta on the 17th. So, like I said, try and tune in because we've got two Aussies there. The Mystics are a young team. They're definitely growing by the day. And look, it's definitely going to be a fun season to watch. Even if they don't win it all, I'm sure they're not the favourites to win it all. I don't think it'll happen. But nonetheless, I love watching those young, fun teams. And especially when you've got two Aussies on that team, it's going to be one hell of a season. So tune in to the Mystics. And again, congratulations to Georgia Amoore for getting drafted. Where the entire country is very proud of you. We will move on now, though, to our next segment, which is the Masters. Now, I know you're more of a golf fan than I am, so I'm sure you'll focus on this more. But I do know it was a big tournament. I remember it was pretty popular this year. I think I saw a lot more of it than I have in the last few years, and it was an incredible ending for Rory McIlroy, the Northern Irish golfer, to finally get that Masters he's been craving for so long. What have you made of that?
It's a great story. Rory McIlroy finally gets his green jacket. That's all we could really say. That's obviously it came in extremely dramatic circumstances in the end. If you didn't catch it, I recommend you look at a tiebreaker at the 18th hole between obviously McIlroy and Justin Rose, an exciting young English golfer. In the end, McIlroy played incredibly the whole weekend. First round maybe wasn't his best performance. He probably could have been. It was an okay game. He played all right, but he really it didn't scream green jacket, and there was a lot of doubt flying around after that first round. But in the end, he proved why he's one of the best golfers in the world. Obviously, he's definitely proved a lot of his critics wrong, and I think the big talking point has always been his short game, his putting, and in the end, he's absolutely converted. He's absolutely proved all his doubters wrong. And seriously, if you have the time, do look up that 18th hole tiebreaker because it's probably one of the best games of golf you'll ever see. McIlroy was just incredible this weekend. It was incredibly dramatic in circumstances, and he completes the career Grand Slam that he's been looking for 11 years now. He gets that green jacket that he's been looking for his entire life now, and it's a great story and absolutely full props to him for such an incredible achievement.
For sure. You look at it, there are some pretty good golfers there. Obviously, McIlroy came out on top. In second, you got Justin Rose, a great golfer in his own right from England. The usual big names from America up there, such as Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau. So, look, it was an incredible stacked tournament. I thought it definitely could have gone either way, but well done to McIlroy for getting it done. We all know, like you said, his putting game has always been questioned, but he got it done when it mattered most. He's now a master champion. He's got that green jacket, so well done to him. It was an incredible tournament, and like I said, I thought it drew the game of golf well. I actually thought this was probably one of the most publicised Masters tournaments I can remember in a long time. So, quickly, what do you make of that? Just, do you think this tournament helped grow the game of golf?
It's interesting for sure. Golf as a sport has always been in a unique position where I think it's sort of had a bit of a reputation, especially the Masters as a tournament, as sort of being this prestigious sport that people can't really relate to. It's always been a sort of sport that you've got to be some sort of rich to be able to watch it or even to play it. We know how much sporting equipment costs these days, and especially golf. But I think, you talk about the publicity. was all over my Twitter feed, to be honest. And in the end, ultimately, I think heaps of people probably tuned in for what might have been their first ever golf tournament, their first ever Masters, or even their first ever their first ever experience with golf ever. I mean, it's incredible for the game. Golf is a sport that is, it's one that's like I mentioned, it's one it's great fun once you understand it, and it's one that I'd highly recommend people try out. But yeah, I mean, I think with the growth of the Masters and the growth of golf, not just with the Masters, but with things like Live Golf and even the PGA Tour, which has started to become a really popular sport to watch overnight. I mean, yeah, I think the growth of golf has been really great, especially as the stars start to become a little more public and start to have a bit more of his personality for sure. I mean, Justin Rose over this entire weekend online was pretty vocal, and yeah, I think ultimately golf is trending in the right direction. It's starting to become a sport that's a lot more accessible to the masses, and it's becoming a sport that is becoming relatable to younger people for sure. And I think it's one that's definitely going to be interesting to keep an eye on.
For sure. Look, the Masters might be over, but there's still golf all around, so I'd recommend going out. Even if you just want to have a play, it's a fun sport to play. Yeah, I'd recommend tuning in because it's definitely a fun sport. And look, well done to Rory McIlroy for finally getting it done. He's had an incredible career. He definitely deserves this grand effort. But we'll move on now to the AFL and specifically Gather Round. Now, Gather Round, I believe this was its third season, I want to say. And look, I think it's definitely picking up. I think it's definitely, you could say it gets better every year. I think the people clearly love it. I'm seeing more and more fans fly out every year. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get out to one yet, but nonetheless, I think it speaks for itself. We'll talk about the results soon, but first of all, just focus on Gather Round in general. So what do you make of this? Because it's third Gather Round. I believe the contract for South Australia's up soon. I think there'll be a lot of people saying to keep it in South Australia because it's done well every time. So just quickly, what have you made of Gather Round in general, especially this year, and will you keep it in South Australia?
I mean, as an event, I think Gather Round is just incredible. I mean, I think I've seen all these videos online, and I must admit, I was in Sydney for the A League. I was traveling to watch the A League, and I must admit, I was feeling a little bit of FOMO following along with this Gather Round. I mean, it's become almost a festival. It's become almost a festival in a way. The vibes are up the entire time. People go out, they watch a whole lot of football, and they go with their friends. A lot of people pack the boot and they all take the drive across the water. And I mean, yeah, it's become this very special event in its own right, and I've very thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And look, hopefully it's an event that can grow. Whether it stays in South Australia or not, we will see. I think South Australia is the perfect venue for it. I mean, the Adelaide Oval, Barossa Valley, all of these venues are just incredible places to play football, to watch football. And I think in the end, regardless of where it goes, I think it's become this very special event, and it's one that's, I think, here to stay for the AFL.
I would agree. I think you look at some of the other things we've got similar to Gather Round. You've got Magic Round in the NRL. You've got Unite Round in the A League, and I do think Gather Round does it the best. I might be a little biased. I'm a huge AFL fan, but for what I've seen so far, like I said, I haven't been able to get to one yet. But for what I've seen so far, Gather Round has been a huge success. I'm sure South Australia would love to keep it, and I'm sure the AFL would have no problems keeping it in South Australia. I'm sure again there'll be bids from other states because it's pretty popular. I'm sure West Australia would love a chance to host it. I'm sure Victoria will try, and people will complain because Victoria it's already a big bias enough. But look, there'll be a lot of interest for it. But like you said, I would not be surprised at all if it stayed in South Australia. But we'll have a look at the result itself now. Now there were a lot of big games, like we said, 9 big games this week, all in South Australia. The one I do want to focus on was the last one of the round, Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn. And this was a pretty hyped-up game. We saw them play in the semi-final last year. That was a pretty close game. This one not close whatsoever. In the end, Port only won by 5 goals, but gee, did it feel like more because at half-time, Port were just absolutely cruising. I believe it got over 10 goals once. It definitely got past 10 goals. So just a huge statement for these men. Did you catch this game? It was the final game of the round. Did you catch this one? And what do you make for not only Port, who probably needed that win after a rocky start, but also Hawthorn, who were flying and got pegged down on Sunday. So what have you made of that game in general?
I mean, yeah, I definitely managed to catch it. Send our condolences to Leo, who happened to be there at the time and was quite frankly losing his mind. But I mean, yeah, geez, it was it's a statement result by Port Adelaide. It's a statement result. Obviously, Port have been solid in recent weeks. They've been a team that's sort of been solid in actually recent seasons as well, to be honest. And Yeah, that's the that's it's a win that's got their season back on track. It's one that's definitely one that's positive for them. It's one that's going to hopefully carry their momentum for the rest of the season, and they're going to take a whole lot of confidence out of that. I mean, Hawthorn have been flying up to this point. They look almost unstoppable, but they've come out, they've been confident, they've played their football, and in the end, it's got them an incredibly great win.
Absolutely, it was a great game to watch. Definitely, the AFL said it wouldn't be about the rivalry, the incident between Hinkley and Ginnivan at the end of last season. It definitely was. Let's be honest. There was a lot of vitriol in that crowd. You saw the Port fans really were giving it to Ginnivan and the rest of his teammates. So look, it was a great game to watch. Port, like I said, too good at the end of the day. So well done to them. But yeah, Hawthorn have to try and just cop that on the chin and move on, because they've had an incredible season, and these losses happen. Sometimes you just got to pick up and move on from them. But we'll look at the other results now. It probably wasn't the most exciting week of football. Not too many close games. You look at the likes of Gold Coast and Fremantle got big wins. Carlton smashed West Coast for their first win of the season, so they're finally on the board. But everywhere else, you look, Essendon beat Melbourne. That was a pretty good game. I saw the Thursday night game where Geelong beat Adelaide. Started us off. Collingwood beat Sydney. So definitely some good games, even though there weren't many close games. I still thought there was some good footy on display. I look at the ladder. We'll put that up now. Brisbane are sitting on top now. They're 5 for 5. They look like they can't be stopped. But right behind them are their Queensland rivals, Gold Coast, who are 4 for 4. And let's be honest, that Essendon game was played at the start of the season. They will probably be 5 for 5 as well. So incredible teams in Queensland right now. GWS are right behind them. Collingwood as well. They're both 4 and 1. Hawthorn are outside the top 4 right now, but I'm sure they'll get back there soon. And then you've got Geelong, Adelaide, and Freo to round out your top 8. So what do you make of the ladder so far? Because we're starting to get now, we're 5 games in, we're starting to look a bit smoother with who's looking good and who's not. So just quickly, what have you made of this so far, and who's your favourite to win if we had to pick one?
I mean, yeah, the ladder's taking shape. It's starting to look interesting for sure at the top end. I'm going to talk about the top 4 real quick, or more specifically the top 3, because I'm just going to say it now. Brisbane, Gold Coast, GWS. I mean, when you think of experiments, these are the AFL's free experiments into what has traditionally been rugby league territory. And I mean, how good is it to see these teams doing well? How good is it? Obviously, Brisbane you can call less of an experiment. I mean, they've been one of the better teams for a long time. But I mean, wow, it's incredible to see those 3 teams up there. It's incredible to see the Gold Coast and the GWS project start to take shape as well. And yeah, it's great to follow along. It's great to watch. But yeah, talking about the rest of the table, I mean, obviously Collingwood not far behind them. Hawthorn, Geelong, Adelaide, and Freo, they're rounding out the rest of the 8. I mean, if I had to pick one from here, I mean, you really can't, can you? It's a great batch of teams this year. It's so incredibly tight. But look, I think Brisbane looked very good. I think Brisbane looked extremely good. You can't rule out a team that's that won the premiership last year. They know how to do it on the big stage. So ultimately, if I had to pick one at this stage, it'd be Brisbane. But either way, not much can be separated from, I'd argue, the top 12 teams really. I mean, yeah, it's shaping up to be a great season in the AFL, and it's just incredible to watch along with.
For sure. I mean, I can't look past Brisbane either right now. I mean, 5-0 rating from me is what more can you say? I'd say they're definitely odds on to win right now. But then again, like you mentioned, you look down at those 2 experiment teams. You look down at Gold Coast and GWS, and sure, GWS have made the grand final before. They've been looking good now. But Gold Coast, after years of either just complete failure or the very best mediocrity, they are 4-0. They would have probably been 5-0 if it wasn't for the Cyclone. So I look at that. I think that they've also got a better percentage than Brisbane as well. So you look at that and you think, okay, this is a team who might just be real. I mean, I do think this is the year they finally make finals. They've definitely looked better the last few years, I'd say, but this is the year that's finally taking off for them. They're finally playing good footy. You've got some incredible players there. You've got, like I said, Matt Rao, you've got Ben King, just some incredible players all around the board. I'm so glad that they've finally got some players who want to stay and play in Gold Coast, because we know that's been an issue for a few years now. But well done to them and GWS as well. They've been, the true light sector in the competition, and finally looking like it's working out. So I'm sure Andrew Demetrio is very satisfied with wherever he is right now. But like you said, look, Brisbane definitely on top. GWS and Gold Coast can't rule them out, and then Collingwood and Hawthorn as well. I'd say have been your best 5 teams so far this year, and all would have an argument for the grand final right now. I'm sure there's some other teams as well. Look down at Geelong, maybe. They're 13-2. They're looking okay. Adelaide have kind of fallen off after a pretty strong start, but they're still there as well. So it's a great top 8 right now. There's some great footy being played, and yeah, we'll have to see what happens now, because it's a pretty big season from here. So definitely a lot of footy to watch. I'd recommend tuning in, and I would recommend giving it a watch because it's definitely going to be an incredible season. But I think that's going to do it for this week of Sportswatch. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, supporting the show. It definitely helps a lot. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.